So our community and participants come from all walks of life, and so we represent various cultural and religious backgrounds. We ask in all of our conversations today that we use inclusive language that respects both our similarities and our differences. We are going to move on to our presentation today, but just as a reminder to keep yourself on mute when you're sharing to limit background noise, because this is recorded and we will be sharing, and this recording will be shared with you afterwards. So today our speaker is Myrna Lapres, and she's one of the coaches. I think she's basically the foundational coach for our Self-Care Isn't Selfish group, if you ask me. She helps organize the monthly Self-Care Isn't Selfish webinars, and as you know, she is a coach in family and relationship. She's certified as a safe conversation workshop presenter, prepare, enrich, facilitator, which I've yet to become familiar with. I hope someday she'll give us a presentation on that. And an emotion code and body code practitioner who I personally benefit from knowing because I use her for that purpose. I would like to turn it over to Myrna, and I'm grateful that she's with us today as our presenter. Welcome, Myrna.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, and thank you everyone for being here. If you guys can help me remember at the end, one thing I always forget to do is take a screenshot of our group. So I want to do that. Donna, you can help me remember that maybe. So today, let me share my screen here. The topic that I'm going to be presenting on is finding balance between authenticity and connection. So recently I was reading, I read the book, The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. He's one of the people who talks a lot about this dynamic of authenticity and connection, although many other people have contributed to it as well. So let's start out by just looking at what I mean by these two terms. So connection can also be called attachment, and we're all wired for attachment for the sake of survival. As humans, babies can't survive. Some species can, but our children cannot survive without the attachment to the parents or caregiver. And attachment brings closeness, security, reassurance, and love, and it pulls us towards connection and belonging. It also ties us to relationships, bodies, jobs, and responsibilities. So attachment is very essential, but equally important is authenticity, being true to myself, which pulls us towards self-expression and integrity. And it shapes my life from whatever I believe, the knowledge about myself. And you could call it maybe the navigational instrument, our inner GPS. If we think about children when they are young, most children are full of joy, awe, and wonder, and they say amazing and sometimes a little bit crazy things. I have a 7-year-old and a almost 3-year-old two grandchildren, and I feel like this really helps me to become more authentic because like they'll ask me questions like, Nan, why is your stomach so fat? So, most adults don't ask that, but kids, they just ask whatever comes to mind. And, they're very free in their expression. But as parents and teachers and maybe aunts and uncles, grandparents, sometimes what we do is we inadvertently teach children to not be authentically themselves. As a child, maybe you can think of things that you were told, perhaps to stop acting silly, or to be nice, or don't cry, or don't make a scene, don't talk back. Good boys and girls are polite. Say sorry. Be responsible. Anger is inappropriate. There's many other things, I'm sure, that you could think of that come to mind. And because attachment is so important, then we learn to survive at the cost of expressing who we really are. And again, this isn't about blaming parents, ourselves, or our parents, our grandparents. It's about just this way of living, and that we haven't maybe thought about it or been educated in this way. And it's also true of experiences in school. I was a teacher, a preschool and kindergarten teacher, many years, and it's hard to manage a class. And in one sense, you know, the students who are quiet and good get praised. The cooperative ones get more encouragement, maybe, than the ones who are loud and more active. And research says that 90% of adults have some painful memory of being told about something that they weren't good at in school. Maybe that they weren't a good artist, or they weren't a good singer, or they weren't a good student. So I'd like to share a video. This video is one that I found on Facebook. I follow this gentleman, and he's a teacher of I think it's kindergarten through 6th grade or something. And usually he tells about the funny things that his students did. And but this particular video, he's talking about this, this point of how kids change during the course of what he sees from kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade.
Warns you about. But he puts this in the brochure. There isn't a PD session entitled Grieving the Sparkle. Because here's the thing. When you teach kindergarten through 7th grade, you don't just teach kids. You watch them grow up in real time. In kindergarten, these kids come in fully cooked. They are feral. They are confident. They are wearing 3 socks, 1 cowboy hat, a tiara, and emotional support glitter. They raise their hand to tell you that they are a dinosaur and that they're worried about the sun dying one day. And you are like, yes, all of this. I will follow you into battle. They are so unapologetically themselves, it is intoxicating. They are deliciously weird. The good weird. The kind of weird where you're like, I don't know what planet you are from, but I am considering a timeshare. And the best part, they are not embarrassed. They don't flinch. They don't ask if it's okay. They just are. But then, usually around middle school, something happens. It's subtle at first, quieter voice, a joke they don't finish, a hand that used to shoot straight up suddenly hovers and then drops. They start scanning the room before they speak. They test the temperature. They ask the unspoken question, is this cool or will this get me eaten alive? And that is the part that guts you. Because no one tells you how heartbreaking it is to watch kids learn to edit themselves, to sand down their edges, to tuck away the thing that made them them because suddenly it doesn't match the group chat aesthetic. These are the kids that used to sing at full volume without knowing the words, who wrote stories about sentient toasters, who wore capes unironically, and now they're trying to disappear into hoodies and sameness and silence. And the worst part is, I don't know if we can stop it. We can encourage, we can affirm, we can build safe rooms and brave spaces and say all the right things. But the world is loud and peer pressure is ruthless, and middle school is basically an unpaid internship in insecurity. And I don't know, it just feels unfair. Because the world does not need more perfectly blended beige humans. It needs these kids, the oddballs, the rule benders, the ones who make you tilt your head and say, huh, I never thought of it like that. Those kids, they're not meant to fit the mold. They are meant to break it. History does not remember the kids that played it safe. It remembers the weird ones who couldn't help themselves. And that's why it sucks so much as a teacher, because when you've taught long enough, you totally can see it coming. You recognize the sparkle before it flickers. You can see who they are before the world tries to tell them who they should be. So we champion them anyway. Even when they roll their eyes. Even when they pretend they don't care. Even when they tell you they're fine while shrinking a little. Because the hope is, years from now, something will crack them back open. Because I don't know who told them different, but these kids need to know that they are never too much. They are exactly enough. And I know this isn't my usual content, y'all, but I just watched it happen today and it broke my heart. So stop telling kids who to be. Because this phone that you're watching this video on was definitely not invented by somebody beige. Find your joy.
I need to prepare her now to
Y'all, we got
save her from pain down the road.
Sorry.
The road. Sheldon, she wanted to share a toothbrush holder with you, and now you're at an ice cream parlor trying to pick up women.
Hold on.
Well, anything can sound silly when you put it in that tone.
Wait, instead of
Sorry. That was not supposed to play. Okay. All right. So just think for a minute. He says that he doesn't know if we can stop it. But the point is that it's so important that we do find ways to stop this trend, because it's important that we figure out how to help people be their true self. And so I want you to reflect for a minute. I'm going to share my screen again about what you had to give up over the years. This is where the writing part comes in. So if you didn't grab paper and pen, what did you have to do or give up in order to belong, to be part of your family, to be accepted at school, with friends, at work, in your community, in your church? So we will have an opportunity to share this in breakout rooms, but basically this is for you. So we have about 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm going to play some music. So please go ahead and think and write. Okay. By the way, Donna, could you hear the music or did I forget to share the sound?
The sound was loud and clear
Okay, good.
for me.
Okay, thank you. All right. So maybe one way to look at this isn't attachment versus authenticity, like a tug of war or something that we have to continually work at, but maybe more like an infinity circle. So when our secure attachment supports authenticity, when we feel safe and secure, that leads us to be able to share genuine thoughts and emotions without the fear of being criticized or abandoned. And we begin to be free to express ideas and feelings, and that brings greater connection to our relationships. So then we don't have to have one or the other. If we were working to find the balance, it encourages growth. And the way to do this actually starts with ourselves. It starts with self-awareness. We can't change, actually, the thing we have the most influence on is ourself. So when I was a kid, I'm the oldest in my family, and I grew up learning to be responsible. And somewhere along the way, I don't know exactly how, but I learned, I got the message that I was good when I was responsible. And I also became afraid of trying things that I wasn't good at. And so I mainly did things that I was already good at, which is kind of limiting. And I was also very embarrassed by making mistakes. I remember even at age 15, my family went to a city that was Wichita, Kansas, that was a little ways from our home because we went shopping and they had a new Taco Bell that just opened up and we got lunch there. And I was carrying my tray. I can still remember this. It still makes me feel tight in my chest. I was carrying my tray and this large soda spilled or tipped over and the lid fell off and soda went everywhere. And I just wanted to crawl under the table. I just wanted to not be there because I was so embarrassed by this mistake and feeling awkward. And so this is something that I definitely have worked on over the years, recognizing that it's okay, mistakes happen, and I don't want to be critical of myself or others. And this past week, I was doing a presentation and I had made a meditation that I embedded music, like I just did on the previous slide. And I forgot to listen to it, like record it. And somehow I was speaking and the music was playing, but at the end I got the feedback that the music was too loud and they couldn't hear me well. And of course, I felt a little bit embarrassed by it because I felt like, oh, I should have checked that. I should have known that. But at the same time, I can recognize there's growth for me because, I can let it go. When I was a kid, when I made mistakes, I remember having this like play over and over in my mind about how embarrassing it was. And even like when I would lay down at night to go to sleep, way before I was 15. When I was a kid, when something happened that was embarrassing, then it would just play like a record in my head over and over. And also maybe I was sometimes defensive about, that why it happened or that it wasn't my fault or whatever. But the first step to being able to move forward out of this is awareness, to be able to become more self-aware, and also, pick situations where we feel safe and secure in order to begin to let a little more of ourselves out. Maybe that's your spouse or your children. Maybe that's a friend that's able to really accept you as you are. It's important also for us to understand our values and emotions and communication styles so that we can be able to see more of us, and also to begin to identify, personal triggers like my trigger of making a mistake, or also our strengths and areas that we feel vulnerable in. And by embracing authenticity and maybe beginning with a small circle of people to practice our own self-awareness. I mean, to be more authentic, and also to practice self-reflection, like, I wonder why I feel this way. Then we can be able to expand our ability to accept ourselves and to become more authentic. So right now we're going to do another exercise. And so I'm going to read this list here, and I want you to think if one of them particularly, or more than one, strikes you, or if you have others that come up while I'm reading this. This is just about connecting with yourself and recognizing maybe where you might have limited yourself. So the first one is, when I make a mistake, I feel embarrassed or afraid. I say what others want to hear to keep the peace. Maybe not always, but in certain situations. Sometimes I'm not showing up as my true self because it is safer that way. Less criticism, blame. I sometimes go along with things, even if it's against my values. So maybe you don't do this now. Maybe it's something in the past. Something in me tightens when I am with certain people or in certain situations. Sometimes I hide my true feelings with friends. I compare myself with others. I get my value from doing things for others. So I'm not saying that doing things for others is bad or anything like that, but if that's where I get my value from, rather than just recognizing my own goodness, that might be a challenge. And I tend to do things that I am good at and avoid those things that I am not. So make a note of one or more on your paper. And in just a minute, I'm going to stop sharing now. Just a minute, we are going to go into breakout rooms. So someone wrote in the chat that from the video, I'm assuming it applies more to our kids, which is true, because I think in today's society, maybe it's even stronger than it was in the past. But if you think of yourself as a teenager, as a middle schooler, I'm sure that there were situations like this. Okay. All right. So we're gonna just talk about whatever came up in these two exercises. And you'll have three people to a room, 10 minutes. So each person will get 3 minutes. So please try to you'll have a minute to settle, introduce yourself briefly, and then, sorry, let me put the list back up before I open the rooms? Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Okay, so we have 1 more minute to just write anything down that you want to think about or share. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms. And like I said, you have 10 minutes. See you in a bit. Welcome back, everyone. So we'll have a chance at the end to share a little bit if you like. But now I want to move into another aspect of self-awareness. And in this one, let's see here. Let me get myself situated. So we also want our self-awareness to be rooted or anchored in authenticity, in something stable. So I want to give you another chance to write 3 to 4 qualities that you respect in yourself or that you want to cultivate in yourself. And 3 to 4 relational values that you care about: honesty, warmth, humor, growth, compassion. So there's no wrong answers here. Sometimes people find it harder to write good things about themselves, but do your best. And we will have one more chance to share in the breakout rooms again. So you have 4 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So learning to balance attachment or belonging and authenticity begins with self-awareness, as I said. We can't change what we aren't aware of. We can't work on in something that we don't recognize within ourselves. And it can also feel uncomfortable, even scary to move in outside our comfort zone, try something that I'm not good at. And it requires us to be vulnerable, at least a bit in the beginning, to ourselves and then to others, admitting when we are afraid or when we are feeling awkward. Takes time, practice, and patience. And during that, we need to give ourselves grace and permission to make mistakes and hopefully learn from those mistakes. I want to use the example of the monarch butterfly. If you didn't know the process of how a caterpillar changes into a butterfly, you could imagine that you see this striped caterpillar on a tree, and then a few days later, you notice this amazing, beautiful chrysalis. And then maybe a few weeks later, you recognize the monarch butterfly. You might not know that these all are part of the process of one creature. The butterfly doesn't resemble the caterpillar at all. And when the caterpillar wraps itself in the chrysalis, actually, I used to do a field trip with my kindergartners. We would go to a local golf course where monarchs migrated to. And I didn't know this or didn't think about this until recently. But basically, inside of that chrysalis, the caterpillar's body breaks down and it's kind of like butterfly soup. If you opened the chrysalis before the process was finished, you wouldn't recognize the butterfly. And so, in a sense, our growth, maybe not quite as dramatic, is similar, that we have to change. We have to not stay the same as we were. For growth to happen, we have to get curious about why do I react this way, or why do I feel this way? And we have to be courageous or brave. And if you're familiar with emotional freedom technique or tapping, if we feel afraid, we can use that. Even just the open hand tapping like this, even though I'm afraid, I'm learning to see my true self, my authentic self, can help us calm down. And lastly, it's never too late. We can't change the past, but we can make different choices going forward. So I'd like to share another video. This is Gabor Mate. He's the one that I mentioned, the author that I mentioned, who wrote many books, including The Myth of Normal. And he's 80 years old, and he's talking about something he realized. So if you can't hear the sound, please tell me right away.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Laughing.
If I were to choose to live my life over again, I wouldn't live it in this way. Do you know Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not personally.
No. The book. The end of that book would bring tears to my eyes for years. Christopher Robin has to go to school, and he's telling his friends, the toy animals, that he won't be able to play with them so much anymore. And what I wasn't aware of when I went to medical school and when I was a physician is how driven I was to justify my existence in the world. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. When you're driven to work too hard, you actually ignore what matters. And what matters is what you were telling me last night about how every summer you take a bunch of weeks away from your podcast and you just spend time enjoying your kids and your wife and your family. I didn't do that. I always felt they had to keep working. And the book ends with the statement, and whatever they do or wherever they go in the enchanted forest, the little boy and his bear will always be playing together. And that phrase would bring tears to my eyes for years. People sacrifice their playfulness, their joyfulness, being driven by unconscious needs to validate your existence. And where does that come from? Again, that comes from childhood trauma. Play is so important, and joy is so important. In that sense, we can always keep playing in the enchanted forest, and that's just essential, I think. If I were to
So that was his son he was talking to. And he can't live his life over again, but I think he's trying to make different choices now, like to not feel that he has to accomplish certain things, but to be present, to bring greater balance to his life. So once again, you're going to have 4 minutes to write about this prompt. What is one thing, or more than one, that you want to do to bring greater balance to your life with connection and being authentically you? Okay, so there's a few questions in the chat and I will answer them later. But right now, you have one more time to go into the breakout room and to share about the last 2 points about quality qualities you respect about yourself and you want to bring into your relationships, and one thing or more that you want to focus on to have greater balance. Let's see. Okay, opening your rooms now. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So I'm going to just share the last 2 slides and then turn it back over to Donna. So let me share here. So one of the things that I feel like is essential for us to know is that this is part of self-care, becoming aware. And self-care is how we take our power back, how we become authentically ourselves. And we all have a beautiful light within. Sometimes we forget that it's there. It's important to take a moment and appreciate and remind ourselves who we were created to be, our own divinity. And lastly, the most profound thing that we can offer our children is our own healing. The ability for us to grow and change can really inspire our children, because it gives hope to them as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Donna, and I encourage you to write something in the chat to share something you discovered or realized about yourself, and it's all yours, Donna.
I don't know about you, but writing in the chat what I discovered is hard, because chat writing takes away from what you're focusing on, right? But maybe just a few words, maybe the impression in your heart right now, something that you feel inspired to carry out of this into the next week, month, year, something that was emboldened within you. So any questions, anything you'd like to share right now? How much time do we have, Myrna?
Yeah, we have about 10 or 12 minutes. So if somebody wants to unmute and share briefly, that's okay too.
Feel free.
Oh, I just wanted to say, that last video, brought us to Winnie the Pooh. And as I was sharing with my group, if you want to hear a beautiful song by Kenny Loggins, go to YouTube, and it's called Return to Pooh. And it's all about, Christopher Robins and his journey, and, et cetera. It's a beautiful song. I just got on YouTube with Kenny Loggins. But yeah, anyway, I found yeah, anyway, I guess, is there a chance of those last 2 slides that you showed at the very end, if you could show it again? Because I didn't get a chance to, I mean, I know we're going to see the replay, but I kind of like to have that closure, that last, last 2 slides were kind of profound and kind of closing, this whole
Sure, I can do that.
topic.
Okay. Also, one good thing about Winnie the Pooh was that I've heard it explained before that, they were all friends with Eeyore. They didn't try to change him. He's probably depressed, I don't know. But they didn't try to. So yeah, this is a slide Self-care is how you take your power back. And we all have a beautiful light within. We just sometimes forget it's there.
Yeah.
And that one of the most profound things we can offer our children is our own healing.
Well, and I find it's the example of our healing too, that we were willing to have the courage to face what needs to be healed and to look at it and to talk about it and to work on it and to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have something to share? Thanks for sharing that, Patty.
Oh,
Wonderful.
you're
I'd
welcome.
like to share. Thank you, Myrna, for your presentation, all the time that you put in. Yeah, I love this topic because it also just shows kind of like the gray, all the gray, the messiness of this constant I guess this constant push and pull, of connection. You wanna belong, you wanna fit in most of the time. You wanna be close to someone, but also if your feelings are different or if your thoughts are different, you really do have this need to also stand out and or say something different or but that creates a little, like, it feels like it creates a little separation. So like this constant kind of yeah, it's an interesting topic of this push and pull and um that we have inside of our own selves. And then, of course, I'm lucky right now, even though there's so many challenges of being a mom, but I know my kids help me to this whole point of play and joy that Gabor Mate was talking about at the very end. Like, we're so driven to to work so hard, to work too hard, but then we forget kind of the process, the journey, and the play and the joy, and that's the essential part. So I'm grateful that my kids, even when even when I really don't want to, even when I'm tired, or well, then I got to find some balance of the opposite way. But yeah, they're always reminding me play, joy, chill, fun, and yeah, so appreciating that, and I know they helped me with that. Thank you.
That's great, Shauna, that you're mindful of that. And I know your word is chill. The
I'm
kids,
so chill. I like to
kids,
pretend that
kids
I'm
help
so
you to
chill.
chill.
I'm not.
And I wanted to say that ties in with what Shauna was saying about push and pull. Yeah, the phrase or the quality that I wanted to continue to have in my life is courageous communication and loving connection. And as I was sharing with my group, it's not always an easy, to balance the two, to be courageous and yet also have a loving connection because, we all have our different sore spots, so to speak, or our different buttons, they can be pushed, by others, and vice versa. And it's kind of it can be a challenge to get beyond that, and peel those onions, and yet still do it in a loving way for ourselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
Patty, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
We're running out of time. I know that Myrna's agenda had a screenshot that we usually share what the next event will be, and that's going to be on Myrna. But do we have a couple more burning questions or points to be made in the next few minutes? If I could take a poll, I would ask, has everyone gained something they really feel is substantial to use? And
Yeah.
if anyone disagrees, let me know.
I wanted to add something though. For many months, I don't know how long this group has been going, but you guys have very unselfishly shared I'm talking about the speakers, well, everybody, but yeah, unselfishly shared your talents and your knowledge. And I know it takes a lot of time and energy to organize all this, but you've never asked for any money or donation. I was wondering, is there somewhere, that, we could donate, that, you would like us to donate? Anyway.
I think maybe not to this, but when we send out our newsletters, it has our information about us as coaches. So, you could either, if you're interested in working with one of us, or you could refer us to somebody else. Maybe that's the best way.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more like a passion of ours to share it. And we also are looking for additional guest speakers. So if you have someone to recommend on a topic that connects with self-care. I'm going to share in the chat. Someone asked about that teacher that I shared his clip. It's called Gregisms. I can send this out also as a link in the newsletter, and also maybe the few of the screenshots that people ask. I can include those also in the newsletter. Yeah, and I think another thing. So I also teach safe conversations, and I think the way to keep connection with when, especially when on things that we disagree about, is to find the common base, the things that we care about, and then learn to respect our different ways of approaching it. It's okay that we don't all, life would be boring if we all thought the same, right? Yeah, and also in the chat, someone's learning more than before. Self-care isn't selfish, but necessary. They're being encouraged to feel more authentic and inspired. And also Marie said that when kids finish school, at college, and start working, they get disconnected from friends and outdoors. So sometimes it's important to encourage them to rediscover that connection with people. I don't know the best way to do that, but you're right. It's essential that, like, they don't become just driven for their job, but also recognizing the other aspects that they need. Yeah. Donna, shall I go ahead and share about next time? Is that okay?
I think we're at that time.
Okay. All right. So next, I will also put this in the follow-up newsletter. But next month on May 9th, Kendra Stein will come back with Fierce Intimacy Part 3, because there's so much there. We have the Part 1 and 2 recorded, and I can put the links in the newsletter as well. And then we will be taking a break for the summer months of June and July. We won't have a webinar. And in August, hopefully we'll be able to have one of our past guest speakers, Mayuki Pullman, who does energy work and exercises, and helping us to maybe balance some of these emotions that we've been talking about. If I could just ask everybody if you're willing to share your camera, so I can take a screenshot of all your lovely faces here. And let's see. All right. Okay, I'm going to take two because sometimes you get people looking weird. So let me take another one. Okay. And one of the things I wanted to suggest also, if you would like to continue this in the next months or between sessions that we have together, a great way to do it is to find a book and have a small book club. It can be on Zoom, or it can be in person, and you read a chapter and then you come together and discuss it and you share your ideas and you create the sense of community amongst other people. So maybe I'll put a couple book recommendations in the newsletter. All right, thank you everybody. Hey, we're right on time, 11:30 here.
Thank you everyone for attending
Thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Donna.
contributions.
Ladies. Bye,
Yeah.
Auntie.
Bye, Shauna. I see Sharon got on for a few minutes anyway. And Elaine, I caught Elaine as she was walking in the door with her groceries. She had forgotten and she goes, oh, so she put her groceries away and I see she was here.
Thanks, Auntie, for all your support.
Oh, you're welcome, honey. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right, thank you everyone for joining.
Yes,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Donna and Evie. It was great.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Being-